Hello, everybody. Today I wanted to talk about eating disorders as it's something that affects a lot of people, but so many people are afraid to talk about it because it can be a more difficult topic to cover. Eating disorders are surprisingly not covered online despite affecting at least 30 million people worldwide. A lot of people think a lot of people think of these a lot of people think of those with eating disorders as skinny, white, teen girls, but that's not the only type of quote unquote look for these disorders. Note that that was plural, as there are multiple types of eating disorders. Anorexia may be the best known, but it is not the only type of eating disorder. In this video, I mainly want to discuss a lot of the myths surrounding eating disorders in general, and some of my own struggles relating to eating and my weight, even though I do not have a diagnosed eating disorder, because I do struggle with that as well. Then I would like to continue a series surrounding the very complex, misunderstood epidemic, so that there will be a much more in depth source online relating to them. This one is simply to discuss the misconceptions that a lot of people have about eating disorders. So let's get into it. What exactly is an eating disorder? Having a disorder is very different than just struggling with eating. The APA defines an eating disorder as, quote, illnesses in which the person experiences severe disturbances in their eating behaviors and related thoughts and emotions, unquote. However, a lot of times it isn't actually about the food, even though most people think so. Most people who have an eating disorder are obsessing over food and weight to try and gain some kind of control in their life. That is the biggest reason that I have found that people have eating disorders, and that is just where their obsession with it lies and ends up focusing on, because it's something you can in fact control. And I know personally that that is why I have struggled with my own eating, and this is also why eating disorders may start out as a coping mechanism that can eventually develop into a disorder if not taken care of early on. What kind of a person do eating disorders affect exactly? Well, anyone can be affected by them, just like with any other mental illness. Whether you're black, white, Asian, poor, rich, male, or female, it really doesn't matter. There are certain things that make you more likely to experience an eating disorder, but that doesn't mean that it only affects those certain people. I personally know people who are overweight and are diagnosed with an eating disorder, or multiple even. I also know people that are emaciated, also known as extremely thin, usually due to a lack of food or an illness, due to their eating disorder, which is a perfect segue into myths versus reality. So, the first myth that I wanted to go over is that all people affected by eating disorders are deathly thin. This is a lot like saying all football players are men. So while it's very common to see it, it's not a requirement to be overly thin to have an eating disorder. And in fact, there are eating disorders that can cause weight gain instead of weight loss. The second myth is that people with eating disorders should just eat, that'll help them get over it. As I said, eat as I said earlier, eating disorders aren't usually about the food, and even if that's what people focus on. This means that forcing eating disordered people to just eat won't solve the problem. There are underlying issues that need to be addressed. However, if a person is underweight or overweight to the point where it is causing them health problems, they need to seek treatment immediately so that they can recover easier and, sadly enough, live long to recover. The third one I wanted to go over is that people with eating disorders are stupid or lazy, and I've even personally heard people say that anorexia is the easy way to lose weight. Not only is it not true, but that can make it a lot worse for a lot of people with eating disorders. And it can cause the person to begin worrying if people think that they are lazy and stupid, which I'm sure that they aren't. Plus, a lot of people with anorexia or bulimia will work out extensively, almost if not every day, to help lose weight. By saying that they're lazy and stupid, it could translate that they should work out more, which is dangerous, especially if you're not getting enough nutrients, or if you have other underlying health issues, eating disorder related or not. Number 4 is that it's supposedly not a real problem. As with all mental health disorders, it is a real problem. It is complex and has a lot of reasons and treatments. It can be caused by a lot of different things, from genetics to environment. In fact, eating disorders can even be a life or death situation. According to Mirror Mirror, young women with anorexia are 12 times more likely to die than other women the same age that don't have anorexia. By claiming that anorexia and other eating disorders are not an issue, you push aside all of the people who suffer daily from these disorders. Anorexia has the highest mortality rate of any known mental illness. Once you have an eating disorder, you lose all control of yourself and your eating, oftentimes, always losing yourself within the disorder, which is why it's a disorder. It affects your life in such a negative way. Most people don't realize how scary these disorders are, which is why I'm making this series, so that people can realize that it is a serious problem. Number 5. The myth for number 5 is that only America deals with eating disorders. I live in America, so that's probably why I've heard this one. But I don't actually know where this myth originates. It kind of goes along the same thing as it being a white girl problem, or that so I don't actually know where this myth originates. I do know that I've seen people online talking about how eating disorders are a, quote, white girl problem, or that it only affects America, even though it's thought that there are 70 million people worldwide that are affected by eating disorders, proving that it's not just America, considering the worldwide part of it. There's no way that that could be contained in one country, even a country with as high a populace as America. And the 6th and final myth that I wanted to go over in this video is that boys can't have eating disorders, or it's a girly disorder. White girls are the most likely to use While girls are more likely to use eating disorders as a While girls are more likely to be diagnosed with eating disorders, about 2% of men have something called binge eating disorder, which I'll go over in another video, within the US. Even if the margin is smaller than with women, men are still greatly affected, and their struggles deserve to be seen. This is also just the diagnosed cases and doesn't talk about the undiagnosed cases that go under the radar because people don't expect men to have any sort of eating disorder. A lot of people also believe that men are less likely to reach out for help, which can be true, especially for eating disorders, due to the societal idea that men should just get over it and man up. And it just proves that we need to recognize it as a problem that anyone can deal with. So now that we have effectively discussed the myth and facts section of eating disorders, I want to begin talking about specific types of eating disorders within the next few videos. You'll be able to find this series in a playlist under Aaron's ED videos on the playlist tab of my channel. So if you're interested in any others that I have posted, then feel free to go look for those, and I will try to link it below. As for searching for help now, I would say the best thing to do is look for a therapist that can help you, especially a specialist in eating disorders. Or if you or a loved one is in danger because of your eating disorder, then please take them to the emergency room or get a hold of a residential treatment center. You can get more specified help from there, and they will be more attuned to your specific needs and your loved one's specific needs. And I will also leave a link to a few different places in Ohio, where I live, that treat eating disorders. As I go along, I plan to branch out where my resources come from so that I can compile a much bigger, more comprehensive list. And I will eventually have... Sorry, I had to yawn. I will eventually have a document that's just filled with helplines that you can search through and find what you need. So I hope that this helped explain some of the problems that people with eating disorders are affected by. And I hope that you enjoyed my video. So don't forget to subscribe and sign in for my next video so you don't miss out. I'm excited to see you there.